Hi, guys. Welcome to the HGR Digital Assets Group podcast, where we have thought leaders talk to us about the cryptocurrency market. Today, we have Justin from CoinCircle. How are you today, Justin?
Doing good, doing good. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, so I think Justin is a very interesting guest because I'd like to think that he's a serial entrepreneur and he has a lot of experience being a self-starter with several businesses from, a middle school selling Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards to, I think you mentioned you also did some sales with real estate and cars even.
Yeah, with car dealerships and real estate.
Got it. So what made you pivot from these traditional industries to the cryptocurrency space? And can you tell us a bit more about your background as well?
Yeah, so for me, I started out with my first online business with Pokemon cards, video games, because that's what I just grew up with, right? It was a hobby. I started understanding prices and value, and that's when I really started to build my own websites. When I was young, I pretty much grew up with a computer, and so I thought it was just cool to build a community online that could unite people, and I can talk to people online too about my shared hobbies. As that progressed, my interest kind of changed to realize a little bit more about internet marketing, where I could make money building other sites. And what I needed to do is to look for topics or industries or niches that was generating much more income, more expensive products, and a larger community. So I wasn't necessarily, it was good for me to start with video games and toys and cards to start, but I wasn't married to it, and that's when I decided to jump straight in the car dealership. Traditionally, not very like startup-y or very exciting industries, but a lot of money being made there, and I learned a lot through that process from both local marketing and growth. As I continued going, though, I started to realize I wanted to really build something a little bit more meaningful than an agency. I wanted to really go out and build a tech company. And that's when I decided to move to Los Angeles, probably about like 4.5 years ago. And that's when I really started building a marketing tech startup, as well as working with Warner Brothers on a few different projects as well. But then it ended up being where I dabbled in cryptocurrency probably around 2013, and I bought some bitcoins, and then I got destroyed during the whole first big crash with Mt. Gox hacks and scams and whatnot, and that's when I really got burnt. But when Ethereum started really taking off in early 2017, that's when I started to really take notice again, especially with the introduction of smart contracts. And also the fact that if I really wanted to know if cryptocurrency and blockchain is for real or not, then the best thing that I can do right now is to jump headforth into the industry and work inside the business of blockchain in the forefront, and that will give me essentially the best answer whether or not this is a real thing or not. And so far, and I'm super bullish now after working with a lot of the developers and a lot of the people in the forefront of blockchain to get that answer.
Got it. That's awesome. I think you were actually in the crypto space pretty early, a lot earlier than a lot of us. So can you tell us more about what your company CoinCircle does and what your main responsibilities within that company is?
Yeah, so I've been running all things growth. So what I've been typically doing is helping essentially companies tokenize, especially enterprises or established companies with large user bases, large customers. The goal really is to kind of take them to building a token around their ecosystem, incentivizing the ecosystem, and also building more greater utility. And so my job is really to build a community brand for the clients that come through, but also to build growth for our internal products so that we're reaching much more users, getting more people to sign up. And my role has been essentially handling all things growth. I've been doing things from branding to paid acquisition, influencer marketing, pretty much all things growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about growth, what are the key metrics do you think are the most important? And what are the metrics that you think might be a bit shallow and are vanity statistics that that someone concerned with growth should put on the sideline?
So it depends on what your growth metric is and what phase of whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? If you're trying to just get mass awareness because nobody knows about you, then your top line metrics is your traffic, your click throughs, your how effective your ads are, how many people are seeing it, how many people are responding to it, how many social following you get, how many people are sharing. Those are the very top of line stuff. So if you go down the funnel a little bit more, though, you're going to see how many people are actually signing up, how many are converting, how many people are referring more other people. It just really depends on the goals, and that's what you need to align yourself with. And each campaign that I've done has essentially different objectives to get that accomplished.
Got it. That's very insightful. It's growth takes on different forms and different stages, and it's important to know the metrics that you want to focus on at a particular stage. So you mentioned that at CoinCircle you work with helping, the website says that you tokenize a lot of different products, or you help companies build in a token to their system. So what are some examples of this?
Yeah, so the first example is called Unicoin Gold. It's an esports betting token, and so it made a lot of sense because esports is a perfect use case for cryptocurrencies because they're already used to digital assets and digital currencies. And so when we work with Unicorn, they're an established company already with a lot of betting going on. Our goal is to kind of make that whole system, especially with online gambling, kind of being already having a lot of issues with fiat. And so if we're utilizing more like crypto, then it's been a greater way for people to both get access and not deal with kind of like the different currencies across different countries, and they can come in and essentially trade, buy, or gamble however they please, and then they can go and convert that to whatever they want to from Unicorn Gold. So the goals really is to work with that company and with especially with actual revenue and real users, and then essentially just tokenizing them.
Got it. So do you think that all items and all products can be tokenized, or do you think that
No, yeah, I don't think so. I think that uh, just because you have so there's multiple layers to this answer, and the first answer is no, not everything needs to be tokenized. Second thing is that if you don't have any users or path to growth or anybody that's going to actually really utilize this token for utility, then you're wasting your time, in my opinion. Because like you can go fundraise an ICO, but nobody's using your product set, service, or utility app, then there's just nothing going to happen with with what you're doing. And then what's it called? In terms of actually tokenizing, you want to just identify what is the value that you can provide to your business and the industry itself, and the consumers are interacting in this ecosystem.
Perfect. So when you think about the products that can be tokenized effectively, then what do these products have in common?
Usually, it is some sort of industry that is already utilizing some sort of point system or transactional system that is a trade of value. So in this case, we're doing one with another one called Tap Token. Tap Token is essentially working in the hospitality industry, and they are having people transact payments already with their bars, doing tipping, collecting points as reward. And so there's really a whole ecosystem of incentives there. And so if we built essentially a layer that all the hospitality industry can utilize, then it's a big potential where we're kind of having everybody utilizing the same system, tracking all the orders, tracking all the essentially points, and then allowing people to redeem it or even exit out in terms of redemption into something else that they want to utilize their own points for.
Got it. So your title in CoinCircle is the head of growth, or and one of your job descriptions is, you're a growth hacker, right? So when I think about growth hacking, it's about taking smart shortcuts, and it's about minimal effort and maximum output. What are some of the key strategies that I don't want you to reveal your secret sauce or things,
Mhm.
but what are some good tips that you have for maybe
Yeah,
protocols that are as popular but want to become popular?
yeah. I don't even think I don't even like the word growth hacking anymore. It's just not something that I even pay attention to as much. It's just now how do I look at the growth in the full big picture of things, right? Again, it comes down to what metrics are you trying to achieve for your next business goals. If you don't know that, then you're just growing for the sake of growing. Then you're wasting your time. Uh, what you should do and what you should focus on is your inbound funnel and the story that you can create as your own token or your own business or your own blockchain company. If you don't have any stories to tell, then nobody else is going to be excited from what you have to share. And it also means that your product itself doesn't have enough moments or enough things or partnerships or ways for you to describe your business, then nobody else is going to get excited. So think about the stories that you can create, map that all out through the different all the different stages, and then what you want to do is you want to kind of story tell to your customers and bring them along this journey up, and that's when you start building rapport, and that's when you really start building a brand actually alongside with the product that you're looking to build. Because I think a lot of people are trying to go for these growth hacks and shortcuts. They're just trying to get people from not knowing you, strangers across the street, into your house and just chilling with you and hanging out. That's not going to happen. Like that's really not. That's too big of a jump. You really want
Yep,
to win people over time, and that's what you have to do. Is you actually have to build a community and brand. And there's no secret about that. It's working from the ground up, talking to your first 10 people, talking to the next 10 people. Now you have 20 strong people, and you keep adding more and more and more. And now you have a strong base, and then you'll eventually hit exponential growth and explosion.
that's awesome. I love how you explained that. So repeated exposure, gradually build up your connection, all of that I totally agree with. And you talk about growth like telling a story, right? So I think we're currently at the very early chapters of the cryptocurrency space, and also the early chapters of CoinCircle. So what are your how would you tell the story of CoinCircle or the cryptocurrency space, let's say in chapter 5 or in chapter 10? And another way to phrase the question is, what are your short, medium, and long-term goals for the company?
So yeah, we're still in like the very very first infancy stage right now. Like nothing has, it has barely begun. I mean, today we just saw that Nasdaq, or yesterday, Nasdaq, it tends to be a cryptocurrency exchange potentially
Yep,
after regulation, and so that's big news. But it just shows you that we're not quite here there yet, where there's going to be massive big players and giants. They're not here yet, right? And this is awesome because it allows us to get in early, right before the big giants and big wave comes in, and it's going to come. And like, there's no doubt about it. All the signs are showing. It's just whether are you going to get in now or are you going to get in way later. By then, it's too late. But then, are you going to also help pioneer the future to lay out on the roadmap for this industry? This is an opportune time before the learning curve and everything gets harder and harder, because there's a lot more players in the space and a lot more things happening. So, I think that we're still early on. What we're going to see in the next chapter 5, or like 5-10 years, or actually, is we're going to see big names come into play. We're going to see a lot of essentially stock equivalent tokens come out, security token offerings. So it's going to be tokens that can pay out dividends or act like a share in a company or ownership. I think that's going to be interesting as well. And we're going to see just more mature players in the space, and we're going to see more development where we can start seeing more things tokenized, because the operating systems or the blockchain platforms are hitting a scaling point now where everything that we can do could technically be tokenized in the future. So who knows? We're still early, but the opportune time right now is to get involved, to be involved.
Yeah, totally. So when you think about the competition in this space, you mentioned that it's still very early, so there's really not a lot of industry heavy hitters right now. But do you think that the institutional investors who control the big money, will they wait for industry incumbents to expand their lines of businesses, or do you think that institutional money is willing to take bets on
I think
companies that
institution
are
money is willing to take the bet on, and I think a lot of them are just waiting for regulation. I think that's it.
okay? Yeah, I think it's a lot of there's a lot of legal gray area right now, and I think it's because technology is often like really slow, and it doesn't it's not quite forward. Regulation is not that forward thinking, and it's often like reactive rather than um, you know, having foresight. So
Yep.
one thing that, yeah. So for entrepreneurs, I think you're an excellent person to talk to because you obviously have so much experience growing a lot of different companies. And one of the key barriers to a successful business is getting the trust of potential customers and potential users. So what do you think is the best way to do that?
To gain trust, there's a lot of different ways to gain trust. It really depends on what your angle and the way that you like to do it. I always like to stack it in the biggest favor to gain trust, and that is first is communication. You need to be communicative. You can't hide away. You have to be transparent with your customers and your audience, and then from there, it's kind of just like consistency. You have to show up multiple times so that you get that rapport and trust that you can build over time. And then also too, it's quality. I think a lot of people, just because they can pump out content every day, they're not bringing in the quality of work, the quality style of their content. They're not leveling up everything to be as professional as possible. And that's just, the more professionals you seem, the bigger your brand seems, and then from there, that's when you start really gaining a lot of trust from a lot of people.
Perfect. So I have one last question for you. I don't want to take too much of your
Yeah, no
time,
worries.
but just, interested in learning about your vision for the whole cryptocurrency space. What are the key trends that you see today, and what are the key trends that you think will continue growing in the future? So I guess to break things down, what are some short-term trends that you think will happen, and what are some of the longer-term trends that you think will come to fruition in, let's say, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years?
Oh man, yeah, this is hard to say. Just only on the fact that things has been changing every 3 to 6 months, to be honest. So it's really hard to map out where this will all go.
Yeah,
I think that
true.
regulation is going to kick in. I think that if it kicks in too hard, we're going to see innovations come to other countries first, and that's what's going to lead charge instead of what's it called? Instead of America. And that's going to be a little unfortunate. And if that's the case, then uh, that's what's it called. That's when we will see a lot of the blockchain innovations happen outside this country. And that would be unfortunate, but there's a lot of signs saying that might be true in the very future, and that might cause a lot of innovation to essentially leave here from the. In terms of like other trends, I'm gonna see, like blockchain is a global phenomenon. I think that we're gonna see cities potentially gets tokenized in the far future. I think that we're gonna see a lot of IoT devices potentially get tokenized. I think that um, even like self-driving cars to AI, there's a lot of potential where blockchain and crypto can kind of take place at.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the you bring up self-driving cars, and I think that's so interesting because Olaf from Polychain, I think one of his examples was that in the future cars will own themselves. They'll know how to refill gas themselves, navigate lane changes, and do all that good stuff. I don't know how soon we are to that vision, but definitely it's been one of the cases that a lot of people have been talking about. And to your point on regulation, I totally agree with how regulations are constantly changing. And there's actually there's like a think tank, like lobbyist group called CoinCircle, sounds like CoinCircle, but the Coin
Hmm.
Center is like pretty good, I think. Peter Van Valkenburg and Jerry Brito do a good job, and they publish a lot of good quality pieces. So yeah, thank you so much, Justin. Really appreciate you spending the time with us and
Yeah, no
got to
problem.
learn
Thanks
a
again
lot
for having me.
about growing companies.
Very cool. We'll hopefully again talk to you again soon.